also to a journal. So it's fine if you like a topic, but if that topic is extremely niche and of very little interest to other economists, then maybe this is not worth your time. So you've got to find a combination of your own fun and pleasure and interest, and also if it's sellable. Again, I'm coming back to the set of slides I made in October. The idea is that you're selling results. Whether you like it or not, we're all trying to say, hey, look, what I've got here is interesting. You should pay attention to it, and you should publish it. So we're trying to seduce, in a sense, readership. So if you have a topic, if you have something you think is understudied and has appeal for a journal, then you try to find a data set that can help you answer this question. Now, in terms of data set, in terms of data set, I'll get back to it in a second, and we can discuss that. We can share maybe experiences or sources that could be the forum for that. Another approach is you have no particular a priori, so that means you have no topic in mind, and you start on a vast search of websites and data set until you find one which you think has not been used before for a publication for exactly the same model and question. Now that's important that I add a little bit of caveat to this statement. A data set can or could have been used for publication before, but it could have been used for a different question with a slightly different model, in which case it's fine if you use it and you say, look, I'm using it, but slightly differently. This still presents interest for an editor of a journal. But if it's exactly the same journal, if it's exactly the same data set, if it's exactly the same model and question, then it has, I'm afraid, little interest. This is something we can debate if it's unfortunate or not. And this leads to the comments, can we reproduce results in economics? And we can discuss that maybe towards the end. But the answer is no, there is little reproduction in economics, and that's very unfortunate. By reproduction, what I mean is someone takes the result of a journal, takes the same data set or an improved data set, and try to replicate the results and see, oh yeah, this is holding, or no, this is not, and why. And bizarrely in economics, we're not strong at that, which is the case for other sciences, but it's a different topic of conversation. We can debate that at the end if you want. And the second thing you have to have in mind is that there has to be enough observations for you to be confident in your results so that they're robust and they're precise enough. If the size of the sample is too small, it might not be worth your time. So two different approaches, which are very general. Oh, you have a topic, you're looking at the data set specifically, or you have no topic, you're just rumbling around, and as soon as you find a data set which you think is rich and has not been used much or not at all, then boom, you jump on it. Yep. There we go. Now, where to look for data? This is the question we have very often. One source that I recommend using is the World Bank Datasets Open Data website. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's now immensely rich. It's a jungle of data. There are tons of links. And this website has improved enormously in the last 10 years, so much so that it has now a full-fledged micro wing or subsite, and it's the homeworldbank.org. That link there should lead you to the micro datasets website of the World Bank, and they have tons of data set available. Some of them have been used, some not. Some are cross-sections, some are longitudinal. There is there is a lot available. Now, what I mean by macro is that it's at the household level, or if it's a more specific question, it would be at the individual level. For example, on participants, on pupils, on this and that, if it's linked to a specific topic. But usually it's at the household level. If you're trying to work at the macro level, then again, the World Bank Open Data website is an immense source. And that's the link at the bottom here, which is the same as the one on top. You end up on the main web page, and now you can start downloading any type of data at the macro country level for any country. For now, it's, I think some observation go back up to early 80s, if not 70s. Now, I'm not talking about the quality of those data because, as you know, some observations for poor country at the macro level are, shall we say, dubious, but that's something we can also discuss. But anyway, that's available. Okay, so that's the first step. There are other random links. For example, this site by a guy at Nottingham, Marcus Eberhardt, his name. I think, I'm guessing it was so much work for him to maintain that he stopped 5 years ago. But anyway, I've used that myself, and the link is there. If there's anything of interest for you, you can peruse that website. There's national data services that can also have development-related data. There's the ESRC in the UK. So ESRC is Economics and Social Science Research Council. They do sponsor a large number of research projects. And once these projects are completed, there is an obligation from the co-investigator and the principal investigator to publish the data. So there will be a specific link where you can find data on that. So these data are not only on the UK, there are tons also on, or a significant fraction of them is on developing countries. And I know from experience that my data will soon be made available on this website because it's an obligation that I had to fulfill in my last grants application and completion. And this data set is about West Africa. So there's no link with the UK. So don't think that because it's from the UK or because it's from Canada or because it's from the US, that it is entirely about these countries. Usually these countries are rich enough to sponsor different types of research programs, and some of them will be about poor countries or developing countries. So you can peruse that and maybe find something of interest. Australia has its own LSIC, which is a longitudinal study on Indigenous children. This is extremely niche, you may say, but anyway, it gives you an idea that Australia also has something. It's far less rich than the UK's one, but anyway, it's there. There are other sources that you can find in the US and Canada. So Canada is my country, but I do not know much about their data sets and nor the sources, but I'm sure with Google, you can spend half a day on it and pretty much get a good sense of what's happening. So I am sure that Canada has sponsored many different research projects in Africa or Asia, and you can find those data sets somewhere. I give you an example here which is the NBER in the US. This is I think it's a pseudo-governmental organization, which is quite famous in macro in the US. Anyway, they have a portal of public use data set for sub-Saharan Africa. That's the only one I could find related to development. I've not come across anything for Indonesia. There is a very strong background noise on. Maybe someone has his microphone open. Thank you. Maybe it's my. Is it my own? Is it my own microphone which is making all this noise? Maybe not. Okay, anyway, so let's move on. I think what makes your advantage or comparative advantage is anything related to Indonesia, because you know the country. So that sounds very daft to say this, but if you get your hands on a data set, you will be able to gain insight much quicker and better than any other people who are not familiar with the context. So maybe if you want to have a look at that before, again, it's a very basic comment. I'm sure you will agree with me. Then look for public sources in the country. And I am sure that the World Bank microdata has something on Indonesia that has not been used or perhaps properly analyzed. Now that's about all I have about the sources. Maybe I could break here to ask if there's any question or any other sources. I'm just looking at the time so that I calibrate my presentation. If there's anyone who would like to share other sources that has not been shared between you, I'm happy to have a little discussion. If there's no need, then I can move on. There seems to be little appetite for discussion. Romy, shall I keep going or?
Yes, please keep going. There is IFLS, Indonesia Family Life Survey, for dataset in Indonesia.
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand. Do you want to share something about Indonesian data set, or we do that later, or no?
Just sharing like some.
Sure.
There is one longitudinal dataset named Indonesia Family Life Survey, conducted by RAND, and Susanas, like it's National Socio-Economic Survey conducted in annual basis. So that's for microdata. Just a little share.
Yeah, I think I remember you've used that. You're using that at the moment. Maybe people would enjoy a link or something. If you can share that with your folks. Now, the other question before you get excited about a data set is how rich it is, because if it's not rich enough, then it might end up being a waste of time for you, and that's dangerous. So one question of interest is, does it have enough observation? If that's if it has 200 or less observation that are usable, then I would say it's not much worth your time. If that's the only thing that is available, then you can, well, you will have to do with that. Thank you for that. Thank you for the chat there. Okay. Does it have also enough variation in the key variables you're planning to use? And I give you an example, for example, a program or an intervention which could have been run in a context and there is very low uptake. So that means that the key variation, which is the key variable which is looked at, the uptake of a specific product or program, is so low that there's not enough variation in that specific dummy variable to have anything coming out. So if in that case you have a dummy variable and the fraction of zeros or ones is less than 5% or maybe less than 10%, then that means there's not enough variation in that. There's too many ones or too many zeros for it to lend to a good solid analysis. That means that your coefficient will be estimated with little confidence. Okay, so it becomes less precise, and that's less interesting. Also, if the proxy you're using for your different variables, if they're not good enough, then that might be an issue. By that I mean, if you don't have, I'll give you a basic example of education or income. If the variables that are available for these two key characteristics are not good or poor, then maybe that's not good enough. If they're in line with what has been used before, then that's defendable. But if you have to be cautious about poor proxies. Also, if it's a longitudinal survey, so that means you have a panel and you're following individuals over time. And if you have non-random attrition, so attrition is someone or an observation disappearing from your sample over time, then if it's non-random, then it makes it difficult to look at the results and not think that they're biased somehow. By that, I mean, for example, over time, a team of enumerators tend to discard old bearded men like me from the sample because they don't want to survey them. So that means that over time, over different waves, old bearded men like me disappear from the sample. It's non-random. So that means that deliberately there is a fraction of your sample which has disappeared for a reason that is not random. It's selection. I have had that in some of my sample, which is very unfortunate. And I've had also random attrition. So that means it's natural to see observation disappearing over time. People move, people die, people are sick. But if it's not determined by gender or any other key characteristics, then it's fine. You can safely say that it's more or less random. Then you can use that safely. And also, is it representative? That means, is the sampling good enough? Now, for you, it might be difficult to talk about that, but usually the World Bank will have a leaflet on the sampling it has used and justify it. And usually the data sets that the World Bank offers are robust. These are good enough. The sampling has been done adequately. But I come back to the Australian data set, LSIC. There has been some issue about the representativeness of it, and that has been raised by many researchers. And it's perhaps one of the reasons why it has had so little use in the past. So beware of that. If there's issue about sampling that you can be made aware of, then that might be a reason not to use it. And then also getting the right angle. So work perhaps toward an improvement, a check, an initial reproduction of an existing paper, which has been well published and you like. If you think it's well written, you like it, then it's nice to initially say, well, I think I can do better than that given the data that I have. And then sell your paper accordingly. It's a perfectly fine angle. And I touch on this in the slides that I also sent in October. But once again, I would like to add the following warning. With research, there is nothing guaranteed, and you know that. So you can end up spending a significant amount of time on something, but with little results to show for. So that's the sadness of research. If there's any question, I'm happy to discuss that. No, nothing. Okay. Now let's move on to, this is what I would say to someone who has time, who has no data set, who has a question or no to face and is about to start a new project. This is what I would say. Now, it may sound to most of you very basic, and I apologize for that, but if it's helpful, then good. If not, then maybe you've got your own material and you can work. But I think that what you could do perhaps is at your center level, share sources of data in a melting pot, in a document, in a whatever works format. And that might be helpful for the group as a whole. Now let's move on to a slightly different topic, is if you have received an invitation to revise and resubmit. So this is something that Romy also wanted me to talk about, and I still have about 30 minutes for this, which I will do gladly. So I want to say well done, but beware, it's not the end of it, far from it. and you can still be rejected after 1, 2, or 3 rounds of submission. And I remember once being rejected after 3 rounds. It was extremely sour. I will remember that for many years. So it's not because you have a revise and resubmit that you're home and dry. It's by no means. Okay. So the point that I want to make with this is be as thorough as you can and not compliant as you can, but I'll be more explicit in 2 slides on what I think should be done. But answer as thoroughly as you can each comment point made. This is the way for you to maximize your chances. So I would say that for some development journals, I'm not sure if you remember last time we had our discussion, we looked at a table from the World Bank blog where there was a discussion about the acceptance rate. And the acceptance rate after you have received a revise and resubmit is not 100%. It varies between 50 and 70%. So again, my point, you're not home and dry and you can experience frustration and rejection even at that stage. So just stay on your toes and alert. Sorry, this sounds a bit patronizing, but it's just what I would say to any colleague if they're asking. Now, my recommendation for a good set of answers, and in a short while, we will go over one set of answers that I recently submitted. So you'll see in action what I mean by that, is first, don't try to hide things or results. If the referees are asking for extra results or to have extra details or material on something, if you don't have it, of course, don't make this up. You say, look, we would like to do this, but we don't have the data for that. Or we didn't think about it during the survey, blah, blah, blah. We are sorry, we cannot produce this. But if you can produce this, it's very much in your favor. If you produce the results, discuss them, and either say, look, we think they're not interesting. Thank you for your proposition, but we think this is not, it's not interesting enough to be added, or great, we're going to add that to the paper, or thank you very much, we're going to replace what we had before by what you propose we do now. And the exercise is to improve the paper. So if you think it improves the paper, don't refrain from that. It's for your own good, and the referee will be happy to see that his own work has led to improvement. So it's a win-win. Now, if a referee or if the editor feels that you're hiding something, or you're not willing to produce a results or talk about something because they fear it may harm your paper or minimize its impact, then this is very likely to kill your submission. Yeah. So if it's possible, produce them, discuss them, but be open. Now, remain polite, but not obsequious. Obsequious is a word that means, oh, thank you very much, sir. You're so kind. This is the greatest comment I've ever received in my last 5 years. We're going to do that for you, sir. This is the type of answer that we don't want. Just remain polite and don't add too much. There's no need for extra syrup or anything else. So thank you very much. That's a nice proposition. We're looking at it, or we've looked at it. It's not good. Anyway, I'll give you examples in the set of answers that I will look at in a few minutes. So always remain polite. This, having in mind that sometimes you may think that the comment you're facing is a stupid one. This has happened to me, happened to everyone. Sometimes you read the comments and you think, wow, this is a poor comment. And indeed, it happens. I have to say that almost every set of comments that I receive from referees, there is one or two which I think are poor, inapplicable, or just completely random. But if it's the case, remain polite and don't be abrupt or dry, okay? Be as clear as you can in your answers. That's, again, very much linked to the recommendation I made for publication. Explain carefully what you're doing, how you're trying to answer the queries. Point exactly at the changes you've made so that they can be found easily, and take the reader by the hand. The referee wants you to do things, you're doing them, and you're pointing at the changes you're making so that he or she knows exactly where they can be found and see the improvement or the changes you've made. So it's not about hiding or just simply answering, oh, yes, we've done that. Thank you. No, you need to add, you need to point where you're going with this. Again, I'll apologies. I'll make that more explicit in the document I'm about to cover. This is my morning whiskey. If a referee wants additional results, produce them. There's no harm. And explain why you include them, or you do not include them, or you replace the old ones you have in the new version of the paper. That's you've got three options. Either you say, thank you, this is not good enough. We think we're showing the results for you, but we think it's not enough. They're not good enough. This is not what we want to do. And we explain why we're not including them. And we may talk briefly about them in the new version, but we don't show them. Or languages issues here. No, this is a waste of time for him or her and you. So avoid that if possible. And as I said before, sometimes referee suggestions are not good or inappropriate. Don't hesitate to make your case solidly and politely if you think it is so. And this is, if I may say, I remember my own PhD advisor, and sometime I was meeting with him and he would say, oh, go and see in that direction if there's anything. And I felt a little bit like he was throwing a bone and I was the dog going to search that bone in various directions. So I would go run at the bone and come back with the bone. But sometimes you think, no, in that direction, there is nothing to be found. So I'm not going to go and find the bone in that direction. So if you think it's not appropriate, you have to say so. You're not obsequious. You're not going to say yes, sir, to, or yes, madam, to all possible comments. So again, politely make your case why you're not doing it or why you think it's not a good proposition. So in the end, a lengthier and more complete set of answers to a referee will reduce his or her incentive to send another round of queries. And you may gain overall significant time in this and minimize effort. So you may think, wow, this is long, but it may pay off. And nowadays, my experience is that sadly, most submission processes will take 2 rounds. It's almost the norm, and 3 is also frequent, unfortunately. And I'm old enough to remember a couple of papers being accepted after only 1 round, but this is almost no more the case. And I have a friend who has had 6, if not 7 rounds. Hello? Are you still, can you still see me?
Yes.
Okay. I have had a message from my computer saying that my bandwidth is poor, so I'll stop the video. I'm sure you'll be very unhappy not to see me, but you can still see the slides, so I think it doesn't much matter. So let me just keep going with this. Oh, well, there you go. Let's see inside one set of answers. Before I go on to this, is there any question or comments? I'm very happy to interact with you. Hello, Indonesia. Is there anything I can do for you?
Should you have any questions, feel free to raise hand or just drop a comment in a chat column. So maybe you can
Yes.
go on, Philip.
Oh, you can just talk to me quickly now.
Yes.
Because you might think this is all a very set of basic comments, and you have more, advanced questions or something more detailed. I'm happy to try to humbly answer anything. Not much. That's fine. Okay, so
I have questions.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Let's say we have a feedback from the referees, and well, for instance, like the comments from the referees are contradicts to each other, and the question is which one we should choose. I mean, which one we should follow. I mean, that's pretty common, right? In this kind of rounds.
Yeah, you're right. This has happened to me. In which case, what I do is I take the angle which I think is the best. So if, say, referee A makes a good suggestion, so I follow that suggestion, and referee B makes a suggestion which is contrary and is not the one that I want to follow. In which case, I will say to referee B that I'm not following this recommendation, and that I'm following the recommendation made by the other referee, and then you explain what it is, and then you give a fully detailed answer to that.
Okay.
And then if you want to add to this, you can also write to the editor. Sometimes when you submit, there is a little box for comments to the editor. You can say, look, at the comment 5 of referee A, I am happy to improve along that line, but it contradicts referee B third comment, and I explain why I'm not doing this. So again, the idea is to be very clear about what you're doing, and they have to understand that this happens. I mean, it has happened to many, many of us, and it's just about dealing with that in a transparent way. And if referee B receives that and see, all right, okay, I'm not in a vacuum, there are other referees involved, then that's fine. And also, for example, in the past, world development used to have 3 referees. So that was a huge work to get something done. And that would increase the risk of contradiction. As long as you explain that and you take the angle you want, I think you should be fine.
Okay.
Maybe if there's not a question, I like to comment on a case which we all had, is a referee which is very not enthusiastic about your paper. So you may have 2 very different set of comments. One is very positive and it says, yes, I like this. I'd like to see these minor improvement, but this should be published. And the second one says, wow, this is poor. I don't like that. This should be redone entirely. Wow. In that case, you can either directly contact the editor and say, look, this is a difficult task because there's one which is very easy to accommodate and the second one is not. So what do you think I should be doing? And in some cases, the editor will reply to you and say, look, you can insert those points and that should be enough. If that's not happening, then you have to find a fine line. Whereas you say to the second referee who is not very enthusiastic that referee 1 is proposing that is set of comment are rather positive. So this is why we're going ahead with this and that. Again, it's a matter of being clear and showing to the second referee who is not much in favor that he's not in a vacuum. But again, if you feel that you need help, you can email quickly the editor and say, I am puzzled. What do you want me to do in that case? Because one doesn't like this and the other one likes this. What shall I do? I even had one experience where I knew who was the referee because of a mistake or a glitch in the platform of the submission. This has happened to me only once. And I knew that that person, I knew that person and we didn't get along. So that I knew that person, it was very much likely to reject my paper for personal reasons. I knew this. So I wrote to the editor and I said, look, this is the situation. If it's about to go on, if you want me to answer the referees, I think this is going to be rejected anyway. So what shall we do? Again, if you're transparent and if you explain that you're well-intentioned and you want to help, but this is what's happening, this is always going to play in your favor. Any other question on this? Okay, so let me change documents. I will stop sharing. What I want is to use, yes, this one here. Now it's asking me to translate this document in Italian, but I do not speak Italian and I've never used Italian on that computer. That's very bizarre. Anyway, can you see this Word document?
Yes.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you not to share this document and to keep it for you if it's of any help. Okay, this is a recent set of reply that I've made. Okay. We always start with a clear exposition of what we're doing. So our answers are in blue. These are the copy-paste comments of your reviewer 1 and 2, and you can see here below our answers. You can see that this has 16 pages, and most of it, if not half of it, or 60% of it, is our answers. So it's a long procedure to answer all this. It takes time. It's not just something you do in one afternoon. Now, the comments I have added are for you. They were not included in our answer, okay? So I will go over all the comments that I have made so that you can see what I have in mind. And yeah, maybe that's interesting, maybe not. Take what you want from this. Now, I have to say that these two referees were good. They made good and interesting suggestions. I could have shown a set of comments which are not very interesting, which has happened in the past, where you simply say thank you, but we don't think this is an interesting proposition and we don't do it for this and that reason. There's not much of that in that document. Most of what is presented here requires substantial changes. Okay, so now we have comment A, which is highlighted here from referee 1. And we say, we have changed this reference to something else. So we make sure that we make the change that is required and we say so, and it's been made throughout. Again, I go below, we have rephrased everything so that it's now according to what you want. So we make really sure that we take your comment and we think it's a good comment, we change accordingly the text, but we just don't simply write, thank you, now we've changed everything in the text, full stop. No, you need to be more nuanced than that and more precise. And again, in the last comment of that page, I say, don't be afraid to explicitly show what is the new version of text where it can be found precisely. So we have rephrased here a specific paragraph and we show it here. So this is the last paragraph of page 1, which I have underlined here. it starts with overall. So this is the new paragraph, and we say, look, this is the new paragraph. I hope this is going to be good enough for you. Instead of saying, well, go and search for our changes, maybe you'll find them, and maybe you'll be happy with it. A referee is unlikely to spend that much time in trying to match his comment and your corrections. This is a lot of work. So if you're making that as obvious and as simple as possible, you're maximizing your chances of being accepted, of having a paper that will be accepted. Now, comment B on page 2 is there's another comment, and it's a very good comment. So we say, many thanks for this comment. This section indeed needed to be improved. Yes, when we received that, we thought, oh gosh, we need to improve on this. This is it's not good. So it's politeness. We're not saying, thank you so much, this is the best comment, you're so great, be praised. No, just, politeness. Thank you. We're working on this. So we produce another set of a new table, which we replace. A new footnote. We are showing that. Sorry, I'm moving around here maybe too much. We're showing a new table and a new notes, which we include in the table, in the paper. We explain what we mean here by the first paragraph on page 3, and we explain also what we do. So we now report this discussion in the main body, and we specifically say where we do this. Okay, so again, the referee will read all that. He says, oh, wow, they're making changes. Where can I find those changes? Well, here they are in section 4.4 in this specific paragraph. And then if you need to delete something, delete something. You shouldn't be attached to anything in particular if it's weak and if it's not needed. Okay, this is, and every paragraph is not like your little precious baby. If one needs to go, it has to go. So we say this has been deleted. Now, again, point C, we've got another interesting and helpful suggestion. So we use a new technique here, and we show the relevant new results, and we have a full new discussion on this. Now, the footnote that you see at the bottom of this page, so we're page 3, the footnote here says, this is where we found this new technique, and we think it's very appropriate to use it. Here you go. You can find a discussion about that on this. It's a discussion about power, exposed power using for estimations. And we discuss that, and we show our new estimates in our new minimum detectable effect, MDEs, in the table. Now, this is an interesting and significant change in the paper. We're happy with this. We produced the results. They're new in the table 7 and 8, as I'm showing in table 4. And after that, we say, well, we want to compare that with other papers. Now, this is very much in the spirit of transparencies. We show all the relevant papers that we had listed in our submission, which talk about minimum detectable effects, and we compare that to what we have. So last column here is the MDE's, minimum detectable effect, of each of these papers, and we compare to what we have ourselves. And we say, look, we're very much in line with these papers, if not better. So if you can do this, if you can compare, if you can make a point that strengthens your result by explicitly referring to other papers, this is always going to be good. Okay, and this is a long point here. So what we show now is that these results are now added in table A5. So this is appendix A5. We show all this, okay? So as I write in the comments at the bottom of page 4, don't hesitate to add tables and appendices if it's requested by the referee. You can either add additional tables and appendix, you can present additional result in this set of response, sorry about this, and not add what you're producing for the referee to the paper, but be explicit about why you're not doing that. And you can replace results with the new ones and not add another appendix. So you've got three options, which are, I can see only three broad options. You add, put an appendix, you only show in a set of responses, but you don't add to the paper and explain why. And you replace the results entirely you had in your initial submission by the new ones you're producing in the set of answers. I can only see these three options. Well, there's a fourth one, which is to ignore entirely, but that's not going to help you. Okay, this is a rather long answer. You see, woo, this is, sorry, so it starts page 3, 4, 5, woo, and then we finish with a comment at the end of page 5, which is, we added the discussion summarizing this in the last 5 paragraphs at the end of section 4.4. So again, new results, a whole full-length discussion on this in the set of answers. And where can you find this? It's section 4.4, last 5 paragraphs. This might sound like a little unhelpful tip, but avoid referring to pages here in your set of answers, because when you add material to your original submission, it may be that the pagination or the page numbers associated to different sections will change. So you need to always come back to your set of answer and check that the page you refer to is the correct one. So what we usually do is say this paragraph in that section, and the sections usually don't change. If they change, then you need to, obviously make sure that they're correctly referred to. Keep scrolling down. Blah, blah, there's not much here. Okay, so now I've not said anything about this, but I'm at the bottom of page 6, and I'm highlighting here. And this is a comment we didn't like, but we say that we're not doing what he wants because we think we already emphasize what he wants. I say he, it could be a she, I do not know. I cannot guess from the type of answer. Sometimes you can broadly guess if it's a man or a woman for various reasons, but now I cannot. So apologies if I say he or she, it's irrelevant. But anyway, so in that case, we say, look, the comment you make in this case on page 6, we take that, but we think we already deal with that very well in the paper. Okay, so we're clear enough about this. But again, there's a second part to that question, and we rephrase lightly here. So the revised third paragraph reads as follows. So that means we have made some light changes to a key paragraph in the introduction following this. And then page 4, here's a small change we made quickly. So thank you for the comment. We've made that change. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's for referee 1. Once again, they're not as good as this referee all the time. Sometimes it's very minor, it's unhelpful, it's poor. I'm sure you've faced that in the past. So referee 2, as we have a similar set of queries. So again, we say, look, we emphasize that we understand your comment, but we think that we're already addressing it in the paper. But make sure that you really make a strong case for that. That's what we're making here, okay? Sorry for the movement here. I'm scrolling down. I don't think I have much more to say because already with referee 1, it was quite a handful. So there's quite some repetition. And here's an example of acknowledging your shortcomings. So I'm on page, what's the page here? Page 13. Page 13, just above point 6. You say, look, we wanted to do something about that, but unfortunately, we don't have the data for it. Thank you very much. We would have liked that, but it's not feasible. Oh, hey, that's a good idea. Unfortunately, we can't do this for this and that reason. We had that question in the questionnaire. We didn't have enough people answering, or we didn't think about it, blah, blah, blah. acknowledging it and saying that we can't do this for reasons X and Z is good enough. And I think that's the end of it. And I'm running out of time. And oh, acknowledging another, so last page, acknowledging a good suggestion, and that we include those results in table 5 is good. So be prepared to change, be prepared to accept good propositions, and be also prepared to say, look, I think we're doing that already, or look, this is not a good proposition or a good suggestions because blah, blah, blah. I think there are these 3 options, and you need to be at ease with what you're going for. So that's me on this set of answers, and it's already 11. So sorry, it's already 10 here. And I said that I will do an hour. So I'm happy to take any comments now if you want.
Okay, please. So any comment or any questions for Philip?
I would like first to thank you for attending. That's very kind of you. I can see some palm trees and beaches and backgrounds of some people. This is
Okay. Okay.
hello.
Hello, Dr. Philip.
Hello. Is this a real background?
No, but yeah, but they are movies, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Dr. Philip, can I pose a question related to the what about if we have 2 reviewers, but one reviewers like want us to change argument that should follow their suggestion, like that we think that is very principle for us, and maybe some like please insert their reference or something like that. Should we follow his suggestion or not? If it's think that like they want us to delete or some delete some argument that I think it's very important like that. So should we follow their suggestion or not?
That's a good point. So 2 things. I have had that also, and I have had 2 advisors in back in the days, and one he had and still has a rather big ego. So in one submission, he said, please, you should cite these 3 articles, which were all his articles. I think this is poor practice. But anyway, we said yes, and we cite them. But we were laughing because I wouldn't never do this myself. Specifically, that case was quite big because he said these 3 papers should be cited, and they were his 3 papers. So we said yes. If someone said you should delete a reference, this I have never had. Maybe if you think that it can go out, you can delete it. If it doesn't cost you, delete it. If you think it's a major reference for you, then you should explain that you keep it.
Okay, maybe not deleted the reference, but what about the things that we think important for us? They want us to delete them. Something that important. Maybe yeah. Or he suggests another redactional for our important message. Like,
I see. I think it's a matter. We've had this discussion with Romy because sometimes it's a matter of the angle of presentation, and it might be the case that you think that the angle you're using is the right one, but you need to step back and think, is that really the angle we want to present? And maybe the referee has a point. If you think after this reflection that it's still not the case, then you just write that, look, no, this is this is not the angle we want. This is important to us. This is what we want to show. So we're gonna keep that. It's a matter of measuring what's important, what's not. It's a case by case answer. Unfortunately, I cannot be more precise because it depends on the nature of the comment made. But if you feel that it's way off, well, just explain that you're not doing it.
Okay, thank
If you feel that it's going to be helpful for you, if you follow that comment and it's not contradictory to any other referee's comment. So suppose referee 2 is not making any comment contradictory to that. Maybe you could say, look, we're going to follow this. Maybe it's going to maximize our chances of being published. Maybe.
Okay, thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
Any other question? Maybe like the last one. If not, then I think I have one question. Like, my question is based on what happens nowadays in Twitter, that one university in Czech prohibits their researcher to publish, to submit their article in one publisher named MDPI. So what do you think about that publisher? Like from your personal opinion.
I've never seen a case like this. So your university is saying that you should.
It's a university from Czech Republic. Like the university prohibits their researcher and faculty members to submit any article in any journal from MDPI publisher. Like, do you have any personal opinion about?
Sorry, what's the name of the publisher again?
MDPI.
MDPI. What is this? Is this what journals do they publish these guys?
Like, I know some like sustainability. Like, if you ever
Okay,
heard it.
I have never heard of any case like this. I think it falls back to the discussion we had in October about where is your employer having any ranking? And usually now employers have a ranking, sadly, and they would like you to target some specific journals. I know that in some more competitive universities, they will simply say, if this is a list of journals we want you to target, the rest is of no interest to us. But again, that's more or less in line with that. Personally, if I could do without Elsevier, I would be very happy, because Elsevier is a rather rich company living off my work and your work and all our work for free. So I don't like this system. I really dislike this system, but in economics, it has not changed. I know that in other social sciences, I think psychology and political sciences, there has been subgroups of researchers saying, well, we're going off and we're going to build our own outlet, a journal, which would be free of access, and we'll just try to take submissions away from Elsevier and other profit-based companies. But in economics, sadly, this has not taken off. But yeah, my answer to this is fall back to what is your employer saying, is if there is a ranking. If not, then.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess no more questions left. Okay. So
Okay, Dr.
yes.
Philip, my name is Dia Titi. So, Dr. Phillips, could you like give a closing remarks, like tips and hint how to submit for the prestigious international journal? So it will make us, giving spirit, for us to submit to the prestigious journal.
Okay. So my answer is in two parts. The first one is I touch on this specifically in the first set of slides from October, how to submit. So there's a whole set of slides on this. If you have question about this set of slides, I would be happy to answer. You can email me. I'll be very happy. But secondly, I do not target highly prestigious journals because I'm not part of the network of researchers that it can potentially be published. For example, I have submitted only once to the Quarterly Journal of Economics, which is highly prestigious, and we were desk rejected for reasons that I thought were not very good. So I think you should not target these journals. That's my humble intuition. Whether it's based on fact, whether it's just an impression, and whether it's an accurate description of what's happening. I think if you're not broadly in a top institution, your likelihood of being published there is very low, sadly. So my aim is to go only in development journals and good journals, but not overshoot myself. I'm not sure if it's helpful. I think there's plenty of honest, very good journals at Elsevier and other publishers which should attract your own submissions, and it would be wonderful if you publish there.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for the closing remarks and for willing to share your humble experience and thought in how to start a topic and address reviewers' comments. And thank you very much for sharing 2 times in our event. Okay.
Pleasure. I've got no wisdom left for you.
Okay, that's okay.
So I cannot come a third time.
Okay, that's okay.
Isn't that? Anyway, thanks very much for attending. That's very kind of you. If there is any question, so Dia Titis, if you have any question about the first set of slide, if you've not received the first set of slide, you can ask Romy or you send me an email. I'll share that, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So you can revert back to me with emails.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, have a good day.
You too. Bye now. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.